In this video, we will take a look at how to use a LumiCore together with GigaCore network switches to easily switch between different lighting consoles at a festival. As it is often the case on a music festival, there will be a house lighting console that controls the whole festival rig, and it is on site from start to finish. In addition to that, many bands will bring their own lighting console, and maybe even an additional set of lights that will be used together with the festival rig. During the limited changeover time between the different acts, getting the guest consoles online to control their tour set and take control of the house rig can often be challenging, especially when you end up with overlapping DMX universes, for example. In this video, we will show you how this can easily be managed by using a LumiCore together with GigaCore switches. We will take a look at the following topics: switching between a house console and 3 guest consoles, having a redundant LumiCore setup, adding Pre-vis stations in our setup, and switching between more than 3 guest consoles. In our first example, we'll show you how to set up the LumiCore and GigaCore switches to manage a festival rig, a house console, and 3 visiting bands, each with their own console and floor set. First, we set up our ISL trunk between our front of house switch and our dimmer city switch. On our GigaCore switches, we set up 5 groups: a house front of house group, a house nodes group, and 3 guest groups. And we assign the necessary ports to each switch. In this case, we will assign the house group and the 3 guest groups each to 2 ports on the front of house switch to connect consoles and computers. On the dimmer city switch, we will assign our house nodes group to 3 ports, and we will also provide each of the bands with 3 guest ports for their floor sets on this switch. We also configure the port where our LumiCore is connected to as an ISL trunk port. We set our front of house switch to be the IGMP carrier for all groups, and we make sure the front of house switch is also our primary root bridge. At this point, any band that comes along can already plug in their console and floor package and start testing their set without interfering with the festival set, even if they would use overlapping universes, as the groups are completely isolated from each other. Now we will set up our LumiCore. We first will switch to the advanced networking mode. Now we can assign different interfaces to the LumiCore. The management interface we will keep on using to configure and control the LumiCore. So we will keep both management and data input enabled on this interface. And we will change the IP address to a 192.168 address so that the management IP is in the same IP range as the GigaCore switches. We will also add 5 more interfaces, matching the 5 groups or VLANs that we used in the GigaCore switches. We add our house front of house group, the house nodes group, and our 3 guest groups, and we assign unique IP addresses to them. In this case, we will use 10.x.x addresses. We enable data input on the house front of house group and the 3 guest groups, and data output on the house nodes group. Also, we assign the ISL trunk to our second Ethernet port that is connected to the GigaCore switch. When we save our advanced networking configuration, we can start configuring our process engines. We will choose the switch function, allowing us to switch between our house console and 3 guest consoles. We select our 4 input sources and assign the matching group or VLAN from where this data will be accepted. In our setup, we have configured all inputs to use streaming sACN and the same universes. But it is also perfectly possible to change this to ArtNet or to change the input universes in case there would be an overlap in universes from one guest, in which case that guest could be using different universes to control the festival rig. We will now set up channel 1 of ArtNet universe 201 in our management group as the control channel that we will use to switch between our 4 input sources. It is also possible to limit the control source to 1 IP address. In our setup, we will be using Bitfocus Companion to trigger this channel, but we could also use channels of our house console to trigger the switching between sources. In that case, we also need to assign the house front of house group to our control channel configuration. We could also give each process engine a separate control channel. That way, we could switch over our festival set on a per universe basis, keeping some universes under house control in case a guest doesn't need or want the fixtures on those universes. On the output side of our process engine, We set up our streaming ACN universes starting from 1001 in the house nodes group. In our setup, we have some Lumi nodes connected to this group, but this will also of course work with third-party nodes, as we are just sending standard streaming ACN or ArtNet from the LumiCore. Once we have our first process engine set up and saved, we can now copy this configuration down to the other 15 process engines. We can do this by selecting the process engine and dragging the first process engine down on the dotted line until we have covered our 16 process engines. As you can see, the 15 other process engines are now also configured, and the input and output universes were automatically incremented. The control channel and universe has remained the same, as in most cases we want to use the same universe and channel to do the switching. This can be done by programming 4 flash buttons on a console that flashes this channel to that value, with a SCARHOI panel, or in our example, by programming 4 buttons on a Stream Deck with the ArtNet module in Bitfocus companion to send these values to the control channel. Now our setup is done, and during the festival, the different bands can plug in their consoles and floor sets into our network when they arrive, and everything can stay connected during the day, allowing them to test their floor set without interfering with the festival set or other guests' networks. When the time has come to switch over to a particular guest console, we can confidently press the button and they will have immediate control of the festival set, without having to change cables or even change VLANs or groups on the switches. In case you want to have a redundant setup of the LumiCores, this can easily be done by setting up the process engines on 2 LumiCores in exactly the same way, with the same input universes and groups, the same control channel, and the same output group. But set the streaming ACN priority of the main LumiCore to 110, and leave the streaming ACN priority of the backup LumiCore on the default value of 100. If there would be pre-visualization computers per guest, these can just be connected in the same guest network and use the same streaming ACN universes. And the operators can already start programming on these Pre-vis computers without interfering with the other networks. If we only have one Pre-vis computer available, and we still have enough process engines available, then we can connect this computer in the house nodes group and set up another 16 process engines with the same input configuration, but a different control channel, in this case channel 2, and 16 other streaming ACN universes, for example 2001 to 2016. Our input universes stay the same, so nothing has to change in the patching of the consoles. If we have a really big festival setup, and we need a lot of process engines, we can also use a second LumiCore to route the data to our visualizer. In case switching between 3 guest consoles is not enough, which can often be the case on bigger festivals, we can also cascade our process engines, meaning that we can use the output of one process engine to be used as the input of another process engine. We set up 3 more groups on our switches and our LumiCore just like we did before, so that we end up with guest 1 through 6. On our process engines 17 to 32, we again configure our process engines to switch between streaming ACN universes in our guest 3 to guest 6 groups. We assign control channel 2 of ArtNet universe 201 to these process engines. On the output side, we don't configure a streaming ACN universe, as we will use the output of these process engines as inputs for our other process engines. Now we will configure our process engines 1 to 16 to switch between our house console, the guest 1 and 2 groups, and as the fourth input we will select internal and process engine 17. As control channel we use DMX channel 1, so not 2, of our ArtNet universe 201. As the output universes, we again use the streaming ACN universes 1001 to 1016. We can now copy this process engine to the first 16 process engines. We still have to add our fourth input, the internal input, coming from the other process engines manually, as these are not copied along. As you have noticed, we are now using our process engines 1 through 16 as our main switch, and the process engines 17 through 32 as a kind of pre-switch. When selecting our house console, or guest 1 or 2, we just need to trigger control channel 1 to the correct value. When we want to select guest consoles 3, 4, 5 or 6, we have to trigger control channel 2 to select the correct input and trigger channel 1 to select the internal input. Again, this can easily be programmed under 7 buttons on a lighting console or as we will show here, on 7 buttons in Bitfocus Companion. So this is how you can use the LumiCore to confidently switch between different guest consoles on a festival without any hassle. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back soon with more videos on Luminix products.